This is the Lex Beyond podcast by Lexicon Labs. I'm Lex.
And I'm Bianca. Okay, February 5th, 2017, Houston, Texas. I want you to just close your eyes and picture the scoreboard. It's the middle of the third quarter, Super Bowl 51.
Oh, I know this one.
The Atlanta Falcons are up 28-3 against the New England Patriots.
The score that launched 1,000 memes. Yep.
And you look at the win probability chart, I mean, it was sitting at 99.8% for Atlanta. If you were watching that game, you didn't just think it was over, you knew it was over.
Oh, absolutely. The Patriots looked old, slow, just completely outmatched.
If you turned off the TV right then, you would have bet your house, your car, everything that the Falcons were Super Bowl champs.
But as you know, the game is 60 minutes long. And sometimes what looks like a total collapse is, well, it's just the setup for the most historic comeback ever.
Which, brings us to today, Tuesday, January 20th, 2026. Because a whole different kind of scoreboard just lit up in a Massachusetts Superior Court.
And right now, the score is absolutely brutal for Kalshi. Judge Christopher K. Barry Smith just handed down a decision that feels like a linebacker just blindsided them.
He granted a preliminary injunction against Kalshi. And what that means is, as of this Friday, January 23rd, Kalshi has to completely stop offering sports-related event contracts in Massachusetts.
They're effectively being kicked out of the state.
Gone.
On paper, this is a rout. Massachusetts argued that Kalshi is running an unlicensed gambling ring, and the judge looked at the arguments and essentially said, I agree.
And this is the whole mission for this deep dive. We are going to look at the game tape. Because when you strip away the headlines, you read the actual text, there is a massive incomplete on the field.
Exactly. We need to talk about the incomplete treatment of federal law in this ruling, because just like the Patriots down 25 points, being down this heavily in a preliminary hearing doesn't always mean the game is over.
In fact, the way the judge wrote this decision might have actually given Kalshi the playbook they need to win on appeal.
It's a classic trap game. We're going to use the mechanics of that Super Bowl comeback to analyze the inconsistencies here. Because there is a path to victory for Kalshi, but they are going to need a Tom Brady level performance to pull it off.
Okay, so before we get to the comeback, let's look at why they are losing so badly right now. On one sideline, you've got Team Massachusetts, and their argument, it feels incredibly simple to me.
It's very straightforward.
I download the Kalshi app, I put in money, I pick yes or no on whether the Patriots will win, and if I'm right, I make money. If I'm wrong, I lose it.
Right.
I mean, playing devil's advocate here, that sounds like gambling. If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, what's the difference?
And that is exactly where Team Massachusetts started. They pointed to the sports wagering law. Their argument is, in Massachusetts, if you offer a wager on a sports outcome, you need a license from the Gaming Commission. Kalshi doesn't have one.
So they're just an illegal bookie.
That's the state's view. A bootleg DraftKings.
But Kalshi's arguing they're not even playing the same sport.
Exactly. They aren't a sports book. They're a designated contract market, or DCM. They're registered with the CFTC.
Okay, the CFTC. Let's ground this for a second.
They oversee the entire U.S. derivatives market. And Kalshi's defense is that they aren't offering bets. They're offering event contracts.
So what's the mechanical difference?
Well, when you bet on DraftKings, you're playing against the house. The house sets the odds. On Kalshi, you're trading binary options. You're buying a share.
A share of an outcome.
A share of an outcome. Let's say the contract is Patriots to win. You might buy a yes share for 60 cents. That means the market thinks there's a 60% chance they'll win. If they do, it settles at $1. You make 40 cents.
And if they lose?
Goes to 0. You aren't betting against Kalshi. You're trading with another person who bought the no share for 40 cents.
Okay, so one is a marketplace, one is a bookie. I get the structural difference, but does the average user really care about that? Or do they just see a way to make money on sports?
And that is the pivotal question. And today, Judge Barry Smith looked at the replay and decided that structure doesn't matter as much as the user experience.
The injunction is allowed. Kalshi's motion to dismiss is denied.
And reading through this decision, the judge really hammered that duck test. He didn't just look at the contracts, he looked at the app itself.
He did. This is where it gets very damaging for Kalshi, visually. The judge spent a lot of time on the user interface. He noted the yes-no buttons.
He pointed out that between February and May of 2025, sports contracts made up 70% of Kalshi's volume. But he went further than that.
Yeah, he threw some flags on their marketing. The decision explicitly mentions gamification, leaderboard rankings, and even operant conditioning.
They compared it to slot machines.
That's a brutal comparison for a financial exchange.
It is. The court explicitly said the platform mirrors digital gambling experiences. They even caught Kalshi using the term football spread in their early marketing materials.
So, visually, the judge is saying, I don't care what you call it. It looks like a sports book. It feels like one. Your users treat it like one.
It's 28-3. The judge has bought the state's narrative completely.
But you mentioned earlier that there's an incomplete on the field.
Yeah.
An inconsistency.
Yes. And this is where we have to leave the user interface and look at the Constitution. Because this case isn't really about whether the app has confetti. It's about the Supremacy Clause.
The Supremacy Clause. This is the federal law beats state law rule, basically.
Yeah. In a nutshell, yes. It's called preemption. And the Commodity Exchange Act, the CEA, is a massive federal law. It gives the CFTC exclusive jurisdiction.
Exclusive? That seems pretty hard to misinterpret.
You would think so. Yeah. If the CFTC has exclusive rights to regulate these markets, how can Massachusetts just step in and say, no, you can't do that?
That is the million-dollar question.
And this is where the judge's decision gets incredibly tricky and where the incomplete pass happens. He acknowledges the CFTC has jurisdiction. He can't deny that. But he pivots to something called police powers.
Police powers.
It's a legal concept. Historically, states have the right to regulate the health, safety, and morals of their citizens. Gambling has always fallen under morals and safety.
So he's saying that since gambling is a local issue,
he's arguing that unless Congress explicitly said states cannot regulate sports prediction markets, then the state gets to keep its power to ban gambling.
Wait, so because the federal law didn't specifically mention sports, the state can just ban it?
That's his argument. He's saying Congress was silent on sports gambling when they wrote the Commodity Exchange Act. Yeah. And because of that statutory silence, Massachusetts can step in.
He's trying to thread a really tiny needle there.
A very tiny needle. He's essentially saying, yes, you're a federally regulated exchange, but you're also a gambling house, and we get to regulate the gambling part.
That feels like a glitch in the matrix. Can something be a federal financial instrument and a state bet at the same time?
It creates a Schrodinger's contract. And legal scholars are going to have a field day with this on appeal. Kalshi argued in court that this would cause chaos.
And what did the judge say to that?
Dismissed it. He said Kalshi can just comply with both.
How do you comply with both if one says you are legal and the other says you are illegal?
Imagine if the NASDAQ had to block people in Ohio from buying Apple stock because Ohio decided Apple was a gambling product. That is the slippery slope Kalshi is warning about.
And there's another piece of evidence the judge used that I found. Well, it felt a little like cherry picking. He references a staff advisory from the CFTC.
Ah, yes. The warning letter from September 2025.
Right. It warned exchanges to be prepared for state litigation. And the judge used that to say, see, even the CFTC expected states to get involved.
He did.
Yeah.
He used it to prove that the federal regulator didn't think they had total control. But here is the problem with that logic, and this is a big inconsistency.
What's the problem?
The CFTC allowed Kalshi to list these contracts.
Explain that, because if they warned them, how did they allow them?
It's a process called self-certification. Now, don't let the name fool you. It's not like they just wrote on a napkin, we're good. They formally submitted these contracts. The agency had a window of time to review them and say, S.P.
And they didn't.
The CFTC looked at these sports contracts and effectively said, proceed. So the federal referee was on the field, saw the play, and didn't throw a flag.
And now the judge is using a generic warning letter to justify state intervention.
While completely glossing over the fact that the federal agency permitted the specific activity, he's weighing a staff memo heavier than the actual regulatory action of the agency itself. There's a huge vulnerability.
So the scoreboard says Massachusetts is winning big. But the game tape shows the ref might have missed a holding call on the Supremacy Clause.
That's the strip sack moment. In the Super Bowl, the turning point was Donta Hightower stripping Matt Ryan. The Falcons were driving to put the game away, and suddenly, boom, turnover.
And in this legal analogy, the strip sack is this inconsistency. By ruling so broadly that any event contract involving sports is gambling, the court may have just overextended itself.
Right. If this goes to appeals court, Kalshi is going to hammer this point. They'll argue, if a state can ban a contract because they think it feels like gambling, then the CEA's exclusive jurisdiction clause is meaningless.
A state judge shouldn't be able to say it's a casino just because he doesn't like the user interface.
Precisely.
But the Patriots didn't just need a turnover. They needed to drive down the field. And in this ruling, the judge puts up a massive defensive stand on public interest.
This is a huge hurdle for Kalshi. The state has to show that stopping them serves the public good. And the judge ruled that, well, preventing gambling addiction is a massive public interest.
Kalshi tried to argue the opposite, though. They said, hey, people are going to bet on sports anyway. A regulated federal market is safer than some offshore black market.
But the judge completely shut it down. He basically said the harm to Kalshi is self-inflicted. He wrote that they knew the risks. It was a really harsh dismissal.
So he's saying, I don't care if you lose money. I care about protecting my state's laws.
Exactly. This is the part of the game where the Falcons were punting and the Patriots were just marching. The judge is prioritizing the state's right to control morals over the federal mandate to create markets.
So we're late in the fourth quarter. It's 28-20. The injunction takes effect this Friday. Is this game over, or are we heading to overtime?
We are definitely heading to overtime. And here's why. The judge denied Kalshi's motion to dismiss.
Explain that. Usually, if a judge denies your motion to dismiss, that's bad news, right?
It's bad news in the short term, yes. The case continues, and Kalshi is shut down in MA. But it also means the substantive legal fight over federal preemption is just beginning. This was just a hearing for a preliminary order. It wasn't the final trial.
So this is just halftime adjustments.
More like the start of overtime, the incomplete treatment of the Supremacy Clause we talked about. That's exactly where Kalshi will attack next. They can appeal this injunction immediately.
And when they do, they get out of the state superior court.
And potentially up the ladder, where federal law is taken much more seriously. Remember, the Patriots won the toss in overtime.
Okay, so let's do the post-game wrap-up. We need to talk about unforced errors. In the Super Bowl, the Falcons had a chance to kick a field goal to ice the game, and they took a sack, a holding penalty.
That was the choke. And I think we have to look at Kalshi's own behavior here. Did they choke with their marketing?
You mentioned the football spread thing earlier.
It's worse than that. The decision cites Kalshi's CEO directly. Apparently, in 2025, the CEO referred to their offerings as bets and used the phrase legal sports betting platform in public statements.
Oh, no, you cannot do that.
That is a holding penalty that pushes you out of field goal range. When your lawyers are in court arguing, we are a sophisticated financial derivative exchange, and the judge has a quote of your CEO calling it a betting platform.
You've just handed the other team free points. It undermines the whole thing.
Completely. That marketing mistake gave the court all the ammo it needed to apply the duck test. If the CEO calls it a bet, why shouldn't the judge?
It's the legal equivalent of not running the ball when you have the lead. You got too cute, and it cost you.
Exactly. But just like Tom Brady threw for 466 yards that night, Kalshi still has an MVP on their roster.
The Commodity Exchange Act itself.
The CEA. The decision relies so heavily on this idea that because Congress didn't mention sports betting, they didn't mean to preempt it. But silence is a tricky legal argument.
Right. Just because Congress didn't explicitly say states can't regulate sports derivatives doesn't mean they can.
Exactly. The federal government generally operates on the principle that if they occupy a field like derivatives, they occupy the whole field. The statutory silence of Congress is the biggest incomplete piece of this puzzle. It's the open receiver in the end zone that the judge didn't look at.
And Kalshi's lawyers are going to throw the ball to that receiver repeatedly on appeal.
They will argue. Congress created the CFTC to regulate all event contracts. They didn't need to list every single topic to prove they are in charge.
So, summary for you. Massachusetts has won the first half in a blowout. Kalshi is shut down in the state as of 3 days from now. If you're in Boston, you are out of luck on Kalshi this weekend.
But just like leaving the TV off when it was 28-3 meant missing the greatest ending in history, assuming this legal battle is over is a mistake. This ruling creates a conflict where a federal license is valid in one state but invalid in another. That is not how federal markets are supposed to work.
And if there is one thing we learned from Super Bowl 51, it's that momentum can shift incredibly fast.
Absolutely. And I want to leave you with a provocative thought here. If a state judge can decide that a federally regulated financial contract is actually a bet based on the user interface, gamification, leaderboards, how it feels, where does that stop?
That is a scary thought. If Robinhood makes trading stocks too fun with the confetti and all that, does that become gambling?
Exactly. Or what about crypto exchanges? If the duck test becomes the standard, if it looks fun, it's gambling. Are we witnessing the end of prediction markets? Or will this case force Congress to finally step in and clarify the rules of the game?
Because right now the referees on the field are making it up as they go.
And we all know how much fans love that.
We'll be watching a fourth quarter of this one closely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
See you next time.